Hi and welcome to the second part of this Create a Contemporary Abstract Art piece. Now that we have our image opened up within Photoshop, we can actually start to apply those effects. So the first thing we want to do, as always, is just duplicate our background layer. So in the Layers palette, just drag and drop onto the new layer icon and you'll see your background copy layer appear. Now before we go any further, we just want to adjust the colours and really boost the saturation. So we're just going to create a new hue saturation adjustment layer. Then instead of just increasing the saturation for the whole image, what we want to do is just to select certain channels. So from the edit drop down, select green, and we want to boost the saturation up by about +15. And you can just see the grass is really becoming quite bright. Now from the edit drop down, we want to select cyans. And this time what we want to do is just to centralize on a particular color area of the picture. So making sure that our eyedropper tool is selected, we're just going to click on this middle tree and we can just see the sample bars at the bottom change slightly, and what we do now is just slide our hue slider just over to the left. And as we do that, we drag it right the way over, we can see the brown of quite a few of those trunks is really starting to become enhanced. Now you might find that you need to click around a little bit on those trees to find the exact right location. I've personally found this tree here is absolutely perfect for the job. And once I've increased the browns, all I need to do is just to click OK. So there we have our colour enhancements. I switched that off and back on, and you can really see we're getting a little bit more depth in the colour there. And before I move on, I just want to merge the hue saturation layer down onto my background copy layer. And we can do that by just going Ctrl E or Option E on a Mac. Now that we have our base image prepared, we can now start to create our blurred layers. So just drag and drop your background copy layer up onto the new layer icon a couple of times, and you should have background copy to background copy 3. Make sure that you've got your top layer selected, and now we're going to start adding that motion blur. So if we go up to Filter, Blur, and down to Motion Blur, we want to make sure that we've got an angle of 90 degrees, so it's just going absolutely vertical. And we're going to choose an initial distance for our top layer of just 300 pixels. And that sort of smoothed out the detail quite nicely, but we can still see the form of the trees. So we'll just click OK and hide the visibility of that layer. Click on Background Copy 2, go back to Filter, Blur and Motion Blur, and this time we're going to take this distance up to 600 pixels. And again, just click OK. Repeating that again, we'll click on the background copy layer, filter, blur and motion blur, and this time our last layer we just want to take that up almost to the top to 900 pixels. And there we have our last layer. Now I'm going to switch those two layers back on, and what I want to do is just create or fake some layer masks with these top two layers. That way I can paint in the detail and get all of those trunks really shining through and create the depth I need for my picture. So if I go up to my adjustment layers, down to levels, click OK, don't make any adjustments, then drag and drop that onto the new layer icon. So I've got two blank levels layers. What I want to do is drag both of those below each of the image layers. So I now have image layer, adjustment layer, image layer, adjustment layer. Now by holding down Alt and clicking in between the levels layer 1 and the image layer background copy 2, hold down Alt and left click, and that'll actually clip the levels layers to the background copy layer. And I need to repeat that for both. Once done, we're almost there with the layer masks. Click onto your levels 1 copy layer mask. Make sure that you've got your paint bucket selected. Shortcut for that is just K. Then reset your color swatches and then hit X. To reset, just hit D on your keyboard, and just to switch your color swatches, just hit X. and what we're looking for is just to have black as our foreground colour. Once done, make sure you've got your layer mask selected and just left click, and you'll suddenly see it go from white to black. Now I want to click on the second layer mask down and just repeat that process and click again. Now that we've done that, we're going to click onto our top layer. I'm going to hit X again to make sure that I've got white as my foreground colour. Then I want to select the brush, and the shortcut for that is just B on your keyboard. And then I want to make sure that I've got quite a large brush. So if you just use your square bracket tools, just to increase or decrease the size of your brush. And I also want to make sure, just from my brush tools, that I've got a nice soft brush selected. Then all I need to do is just very quickly, I'm just going to paint over that foreground so that I start to get some of the detail of that top layer coming in. Then decrease the size of the brush, and what I can do is just start to paint in on those trees, just bring in the detail of some of those foreground trees. So we're starting to add that sort of sense and feeling of depth to the picture. So I'll just do this very quickly. Obviously, the more time you spend on this, the better your final result will look. And you can just see over here on the right how the layer mask is starting to build up. If you want to see the effect that that's having, you can actually hold down Shift to switch it off. And if you hold down Alt, you can actually see the layer mask in the full screen. And this is really useful if you just want to tidy up a mask that you're creating. So just hold down Alt and left click, and now we can see the mask that we're making there. Now obviously, to get a really good result, this takes some time, so I'll leave that layer where it is. And now I can click on my second levels layer mask, and again, just using a large brush, I can start to add that depth into the background. And you can really see how that's working. You can start to see the form of the bushes in the background, which were blurred out by the initial layer. And again, I just want to bring back a few of those trees in the background as well. So just start to paint those in. And that's sort of really helping with the depth of the picture. And again, you can just see how that's being built up on the layer mask there. Now spend a bit of time getting all that done, and once done, we're going to just apply a quick levels adjustment layer just to increase the impact of the tone and the colour. So click back onto the background copy 3, your top layer, go to your adjustment layers and select levels. And what we want to do is, just holding down Alt, we just want to start to clip in slightly into that histogram. And you instantly see how the dynamics of the image are changing. And once you're happy, just click OK. And if I switch that levels layer off, you can really see how that levels adjustment layer has really helped the tone and the colour of the picture. Now before I finish, I just want to crop the picture down. So I'm going to flatten all of those layers down into one to start off with. So making sure I've got my top layer selected, hold down Shift, click the background layer, then up to my layer options and select flatten image. Now I want to select my crop tool, so that's just C on my keyboard, and I want to go for a standard paper size of 8 inches by 10 inches. So if I go to the aspect ratio drop down to 8 by 10, the resolution of my picture was 240 ppi, so I'll just enter that into the resolution, and then I will just draw quickly my crop into the image. Now at the moment I've got this quite light highlight over on the top left, which I don't really want. So if I just hold down Shift, I can then just slide my crop over to the right slightly, and by holding down Shift, that just helps stop it from move up and down above the canvas. So once I've found a position that I like, just hit the green confirm button, And there we have our final contemporary abstract artwork.